The midfield is a really interesting one. And naturally, it was McAllister and Szoboszlai that started in the double pivot against Bournemouth. Someone is going to ask me again, and just in case you're joining, I don't know about Alexis McAllister. I generally don't. His other half apparently having a baby. There's no pictures of him in the photo. I get all that. I don't know. What I'm intrigued by is the midfield a little bit. I think at the start of the summer, and there was links, we all had great visions, didn't we? It's like Adam Wharton, that left foot, the progressive passes, especially with Trent departing, he would be a perfect signing. All set to stay at Palace for another season. Even some saying, okay, different type of player, but a belabor there. Someone who can play that six, break it up, keep it simple at times would be perfect for us. Didn't happen either. In fact, I think we'd all be, if you're completely honest, astonished if we brought in another midfielder. We did kind of bring in one. And the reason I'm saying kind of is, and I know people when Florian Wirtz first came through the door, could play false nine, and on a slot, as mentioned, could come into the left, play that Coutinho, tuck in, so Kirkes could bomb on. I get all that. But it was interesting last night that it came out, the quotes from Wirtz doing an interview with Kicker in Germany. Just in case you haven't heard them, let me sort of give you what he said. He said, he was talking about Slot convincing him, but he said, this combined with the structure of the team convinced me. He saw me in the number 10 position where I play best. I was brought in for that position because they trusted me to make the team better. I'm trying to live up to that as best as I can. And it is interesting because, he said that, that's what Arne Slot told him, quite honestly. The team still adjusted and got to adapt to Florian Wirtz as a 10 instead of a Szoboszlai, and all that means, of course, that's not being critical of Florian Wirtz. He's actually got to be given time to adapt to the Premier League. But when you look at the minutes from last season, it's who you want and how much do you... We need a bit of luck, put it that way. And the reason I say that is, this was a title-winning midfield, so you can't be too derogatory about it. However, really important to say, they were on their arse. They were blowing out their arse at times last season. And thinking back to, remember that Carabao Cup period where we played PSG at the same time? They just looked a little dead on the feet. There is now another player in the mix that this comes into it. But if you think back to last season, Grav, practically an ever-present, and he's great. Feels important that he's back for tonight. 4,207 minutes in all competitions. Yeah. So Szoboszlai, not too far off that number as well. Maka, the best midfielder in the Premier League. Yeah. They're going to be asked to push again. And it is funny, Redman there, 76, saying, I think we need another midfielder. Without Gravenberch, the midfield was easy to get at, go beyond in our 2 games so far. I'd look to bring in another 6. I think we all wanted, to be fair, a Wharton, a Belaber. I think everyone did, especially Wharton with Trent going, you thought, give us that progression in the middle. But got to be honest on it, it doesn't look like there's any sign of that happening. I think we'd all be astonished now if it did before the deadline. Big sign of the summer, Florian Wirtz comes in. And if you think to his minutes with Leverkusen last season, 3,392. Yes, it is in a less physical league, but it is important to say that even at a young age, used to playing week in, week out. So that's important of giving players minutes. Curtis Jones is an interesting one. 2 years left to go on his deal. Apparently the club is trying to negotiate. That's not going easy. But last season, do you remember how many minutes Curtis Jones plays? Because he had a few when he was injured, of course. 2,438 minutes last season. So naturally, that could be up to little, couldn't it? Again, depends on his availability. So that's there. And then you do forget, but the man with the gum shield, the number 3, the Japanese captain, Endo, I think, 5th choice centre-half. sixth choice midfielder, you would probably say, and then I'll explain where I make him that. But last season, covered a bit, but still, in his entirety, he played 865 minutes. Not really too much. So I suppose you could argue there's a freshness, but I think if you're all being honest, maybe against weaker opposition when the game's done, yes, you don't mind him see him coming on. Yes, when you may be locking it down at home at 2 or something like that, I get that. I don't mind that sub at the same time. However, you weren't all crying with happiness when he came on against Bournemouth. And yes, right back, we never want to see him there again. Of course we don't. But how many minutes do you want for Endo? And that sounds terrible to say. I think if Endo goes higher this season, you just hope it's because of the old garbage time, as they'd say. But I don't know. And this is going to sound harsh because he's off the pitch right now. But Harvey Elliott, I mean, hardly had a sniff last season. Has a great Euros. It does feel like this one will get done before the end of the window, doesn't it? That Red Bull Leipzig look likely. Other clubs have been linked at the same time. But Harvey Elliott's minutes last season, and it's interesting there. ELFC just put in the chat, Elliott has to stay now. Okay. Well, Florian Wirtz is coming, who, as we said, just to reiterate, had played 3,392. He's spending 116 million as a package to play regularly. So that's the first thing to consider. The second thing is I clearly fielding offers for Harvey Elliott, and, we suspect he will move anyway. But last season, his minutes, a lot of people didn't quite seem to notice this, and you might do. 822. Actually played less than Endo, Harvey. Only 822. The case for Harvey staying in terms of as a body, I absolutely get, because you're already thinking, God, we're low in certain areas. We can't afford to spare one more. But it's been a bit harsh, and I get it. Yeah, I fully expect Harvey Elliott to depart, and 40 million with a sell on, 50 million without, somewhere in between or around that figure sounds absolutely brilliant. But I think it's not going to happen. It looks like genuinely there's no solid links as we can sit here right now and say a midfielder's coming in. It would be a brilliant surprise, but it would be a hell of a surprise right now. You are going to be asking that group to go again and go again big time. You just hope come, later stages of the season that they aren't going out their arse as they were in this campaign. And someone might argue, and I should bring him onto the pitch, to be fair, because I do think he's a real talent. Train Ione, yes, of course, he comes into the mix. Some will argue, naturally, for them, I don't think he is for Slot. He's a bit ahead of Endo in that pecking order. But if you're realistic at the same time, with Train Ione, you're probably thinking, I don't know what, you tell me if any different. 500 minutes, something like that. The cups, of course, to rest the senior stars. But you're not expecting anything more. You can't be expecting anything more from Train Ione. You already had concerns about the defence. You're hoping Gay resolves it. The midfield, let's be honest, there's no tangible links right now of anyone coming in. If anything, Harvey Elliott looks set to depart. Maybe, I've left McConnell there as a potential option, but you expect him to depart as well. And I think John Leicester there, there's a few debates in the chat panel, but gets it absolutely spot on. I think Elliott just doesn't suit Liverpool's style of play. Too slow to be a winger, more suited to a club that do play as a 10. And I agree, don't have Florian Wirtz in the way. Yeah. Midfield, I think we've got to go with what it is. We're going to need luck. Otherwise, you might be seeing players that you maybe don't necessarily want to have that. And people saying, Leipzig could be perfect. We will see,